The Oral History Project, I think, really is testament to the ever-increasing professionalisation of the military archives and its engagement as part of the wider archival profession and community.
I was fascinated when I heard, first of all, that there was to be an oral history project. It expands and improves the documentary side of archives, if you like. It gives it a human face, it gives it human emotions, and it's altogether more satisfactory when taken with the documentary evidence.
The Military Archives Oral History Project fulfills the function of recognising that there are competing and different and silenced narratives that exist and are intertwined within the official, so to speak, narrative of the state.
The Oral History Project in the form it's in now started in mid-2015. The officer in charge at the time organised a training course for anyone in the Army, Air Corps, Naval Service who was interested in the Oral History Project, and we had instruction from Dr. Tomas McNamara, who's the consultant advising us on the project.
Well, oral history for me is two things. It's both a method and a resource. It's a method of exploring our past through capturing the human hidden dimensions of our history. And as a resource, it's an opportunity for scholars and for people all over the country and all over the world to develop a deeper understanding of who we are through those captured human stories.
When we were in the Curragh, there were a couple of lads went out with the first group, and they were talking about how dangerous it was and how, like, they didn't have a great time. They were out in the jungle and food wasn't great and it was tough. But the more they were kind of trying to talk us out of going to this place, but the more they talked about it, the more excited I got.
Oral history allows time travel for the contemporary historian to go back and to understand what it was like to be there at the time. You capture the interviews, if you capture the stories, the personal stories of those who were there, those stories are now going to be available for generations to come. And so those who are yet unborn, if I can put it that way, will be able to use interviews with people who will be long since dead.
When you read a document, it's one thing. When you hear the person's voice, it's totally different, and it's something extra. You can read what you want, you can read it 10 times and it'll mean the same thing. It might vary a little, but when you hear the person's voice telling you that story, it means so much more.
It gives you the personalised side of what can be a very dry history.
The Military Archives Oral History Project illustrates clearly that when you go and sit down and capture the recorded human stories of people who have contributed to a collective effort, you develop this much deeper understanding of what the reality of life was in the Defence Forces.
People, their grandchildren say, I never met my great-grandfather, he was in the Congo, but I have his voice and I'm in touch with him because of that. That's the narrative that we want to explore, and I think it's really important for the Irish people and for the Defence Force.
So there's material coming in from across the three services, the Army, the Air Corps and the Naval Service. I sit at my computer upstairs with the headphones on and listen to the stories. I'm supposed to be cataloguing them as I go, but you find kind of 10 minutes pass, you're drawn into a story and you haven't actually written anything for a few minutes. So you really do get caught up in the stories you're listening to.
The first thing, the impact was the smell. And you looked to the left and right, and there were these bamboo mats wrapped up, and inside every mat was a dead person. The pickup trucks, small pickup trucks, throw the body in the back of it. When you fill it, up to the mass grave that the legionnaires were digging out with JCBs and dropped them in. I was there 5 minutes, and a nurse came to me and says to me, "Do you know how to put a butterfly drip in?" I said, "No." She said, "I'll teach you once." And I remember saying to her, like, "Jesus, I'll hurt the child." She says to me, "He's going to die anyway."
People in future generations, future centuries, will know how we spoke in the 20th and the 21st century from oral history interviews.
My one regret is that there's a whole area, the 1930, those, that I just wonder if we had started this early, when they were old men, as I am now, that we could have had even more.
Through my exposure to the oral history in the project, I developed a much better understanding, and I think that is the lesson that can be learned right across the country, that people don't have a full appreciation for what the reality of Defence Force history is, but through oral history, through its documentation and through its dissemination to the public, we develop a much deeper understanding amongst the general public of what the Defence Forces has done and the history of the state.
In 100 years' time, for Irish people to be able to hear the voices of the first generations of Irish soldiers, now there'll be a chance to forever lock into a kind of time capsule through an oral history project and interview how the people sounded, and I think that that's really, really important.